All right, here with UFC strawweight Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa, I gotta say, it's great to be on the roster, right? Everybody wants to be in the UFC, but getting that first UFC win, that's what matters, right? So talk to you about that accomplishment and just kind of, I don't know, what that moment meant to you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, getting to the UFC, that's like the first step of accomplishment. But then getting to go out there and get that huge win, that huge victory on a pay-per-view card, and even being on like the pre-prelims. Like the pre-prelims, like they weren't even on the TV, they weren't even on the ESPN, like where people can watch them in the bars. And to get so much attention from something like that, like that was so spectacular. It was such a huge life-giving moment. And yeah, I'm definitely like full of like just excitement from everything that had happened.
That's awesome. You said it, right? The viral moment with Joe Rogan, right? Everybody sees it everywhere. I guess first let's just talk about the moment, the celebration. Had you been like planning that or picturing that in your head, or was it just like spur of the moment, like let's have some fun?
I mean, it was like something that like I thought about it, and then like when the moment was there, I was like, just do it. So like yeah, and Joe, like he's such a cool vibe that I assumed he'd be down for it. I assumed he'd go along with it. I'm so grateful that he did. Could you imagine if he had just like not gone with it, just like denied me and dropped me or something? Like
That could have gone a lot. That could have gone a lot worse. So here's what I
yeah.
wonder, Vanessa, right? Because this was a hugely viral moment, and I think it introduced you to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, is that okay with you? Like maybe they didn't even watch the fight, or like, I mean, you've had some pretty damn good fights on your way up as well, right? So like, what if it's like they only know you? Is that okay? Because I guess you got to get known somehow. But does it matter? Or do you like, I wish they would actually watch my fights and not just my celebration?
You know what? Honestly, I don't care. Like, because I have had such savage battles in the cage and I am an artist. So for me, it's something where I'm like I'm a writer, for example, and I've written like over 450 poems, right? I don't share them. Like the things that I do them because it's what's inside my heart. It's what's inside my soul. So when I get to fight, I am sharing that with the world, but I don't give a damn who's watching. Like I would fight if it was a completely empty arena with no cameras. Like I put on the exact same performance. So for me, like this is something that I get to do because I really fucking love this shit. And I'm just like, I think it's so cool that people love the fact that I get to fight because I love the fact that I get to fight, you know? So it's like, it doesn't matter how they're watching, what they're watching for. If they're just like, oh, like that chick's got a booty or whatever. Like everyone's watching for a different reason, like, but at the end of the day, they're tuning in,
That's
and
awesome.
that's the important part. Yeah.
That's a great attitude. So this poetry, I had no idea you were writing poems. When is this something you've done your whole life, or is this a passion of yours?
Yeah, nobody has an idea. I don't share it. Yeah, it's a huge passion of mine. As everyone knows, I've written two books, so about stripping, but like I just wrote a poem the other day and it was about fighting. Like I love writing. I'm just like I'm an artist. I'm an artist at heart. Like when it comes to dancing, fighting, writing, like I just love expression, expression from the soul.
I love it. Yeah, as you said, you're a published author. Do you think you'd ever publish this collection of poems, or is this something just for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Maybe one day when I'm not so like shy of my art when it comes to something like that. Like when it comes to poetry, like that's from the soul. But like my fighting poem, like man, I almost want to like post that one, like there's poems where I'm just like, I want to share this with the world. But yeah, I love poetry.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, it
I'm
shouldn't
a
surprise
softie
me. It
at
seems like
heart. Don't tell anyone, okay?
we definitely won't. We'll make sure nobody's.
Okay.
So listen, you're always busy. I saw in the meantime, you got your black belt recently, right?
Yeah, I got my black belt. I graduated jiu-jitsu college.
How cool is that? It's funny because I don't think people necessarily understand. I mean, you hear it, and of course, it's a big deal, but you see those moments that people get it. Like it means more than just about anything in life when people reach this moment. So, I mean, I guess what did it mean to you to get that recognition, to get that honor?
Man, I'll tell you, I couldn't stop crying. Like when they were putting that belt around me and just like grouping up for the pictures and stuff, I was just like bawling and bawling. And like giving my speech, I was bawling. Like it's so difficult to sum up like 10 years of experience, like 10 years of friendships that you've made on the mats, 10 years of like 3 times a day, muito borrada, just like freaking training and grinding and going and traveling and competing. And it's like I got to a point where I was traveling and competing so much. My coach were there in Abu Dhabi. Like, it's like I traveled to Abu Dhabi by myself and competed alone, like and cut weight alone without a sauna, without a hot tub, like, and no, with nothing. Like, it was like there's so much like craziness, like the relationships that you make along the way, like the friendships that you hold. There's just so much, like the sacrifices that you make, like the events that you miss, like the things that you trade, to be able to do something that you love so deeply and so passionately, and you just dream about every day. Like I literally go to sleep thinking about jujitsu, and like thinking about like different moves and like just like how much I love this sport. So it was such a huge monumental moment in my life. Like I think like people get married and some people get their black belts and some people do both, but for me it was getting my black belt, like that's where it's at on my list.
That's incredible. So do you still spend a significant amount of time training in a gi? Because obviously, it's no gi work when you're talking about mixed martial arts, but do you still spend a lot of time in the gi?
I don't spend a lot of time in the gi anymore. It used to be to a point where like I'd be getting ready for my MMA fights in the gi, but things have changed now. I'm much more no-gi focused, and I travel around the world now competing in no-gi. So, I do the EBIs, the Medusas, the combat jujitsus. I was one of the first girls on the scene to do submission only jujitsu when it first started to become popular. And so no-gi's always like been like a major part of my life as well as the gi, but I do miss the gi, and it's a totally different sport, but I love them both so much.
Yeah, really. Right. When you talk about doing all these grappling competitions, what fuels you to want to stay that active, right? To keep doing it? Is it the competition? Is it a little bit of extra money here and there? Is it just what is it that fuels you to stay this active even now that you're in the UFC?
Yeah, I lose money doing jujitsu. So, it's like if I win a competition and I win like 3 grand, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like as an entertainer, I was making that in a week, So it's like I lose money when I was competing in jujitsu. I was spending money, just to go and to chase my passion. I think for me, competing is more about like feeding that like inner primal beast, and like just like being so like pure and aggressive and expressive in the art that I've trained so hard to do, and I've competed in all different types of rule sets, all different types of rule sets. If there's a rule set out there, I've probably competed in it for sure, for sure. But competition for me is about getting to showcase all of the hard work that I put in every single day and pushing myself to those limits, because I do push myself to those limits in the gym, to the point of, pure, complete, like just exhaustion, completely done. There's nothing left in the tank. Well, now let me go ahead and showcase that. Let me test this a little bit. And you can't get better and you can't really know where you're at if you're not actually competing against the best in the world. And you can't do that unless you're going out there seeking it, finding it, training with them, and competing against them.
That's the truth. Well, listen, okay. UFC, grappling competitions, poetry, and oh, by the way, broadcasting now too. I saw you out in Phoenix. You're doing the extra rounds. I mean, I don't know how there's enough time in the day for you to do all this stuff, but how are you finding that new experience, that new aspect of your life?
Man, it's so cool. I love it. It's like so awesome. Like now I get to literally study fights. Like what? And like get to talk about fights. Like what? Like if you couldn't tell, number one, I love talking. Number two, I love fighting. Like let's slam those together, man. Like it's like like yeah. I think my face is getting red because I'm getting so excited. Extra rounds has been such a cool experience for me, to be able to be doing broadcasting now, and to be able to be a part of the UFC Fight Pass team, to be behind the scenes and just like a part of something that I feel like I'm growing as a person, but I'm also growing as an athlete because studying fighting, like not only for yourself, but to see what things other people are doing right, what things people are doing wrong, what things they could correct. It kind of helps you. They always say like you learn more from teaching than doing. And for me, analyzing is kind of almost like and publicly broadcasting the things that I'm learning. It's teaching me as well. I'm learning a lot, I'm growing a lot and stretching that capacity to be able to do more. It's really cool.
Are you finding it difficult to be critical of your peers? I mean, because that's what you have to do as an analyst, right? Sometimes is be critical of your peers. And as we know, fighters from time to time can be awfully sensitive about their art and their craft. Are you finding that a difficult challenge to navigate?
I did for a moment, but I also thought about what it's like to be the athlete on the other side. And I know that part of it. So I think that almost gives me a little bit of a better perspective and edge because I like talking about the things people did right versus the things maybe someone else did wrong. So instead of being like, man, they fucked up and did this and this, it's like, well, but this person did this really, really well. So I like giving those perspectives more so than the other side of the fence. So I think I found a pretty good balance. Personally, I don't know. Maybe I didn't find a good balance. Maybe people hate me. I don't
know. Who cares? The check still clears.
Hey.
All right. Well, with all that going on, we've also got your fighting career. You're back at it on June 25th in Las Vegas. Jinh Yu Frey. Talk about her as an opponent. She's got a little momentum going right now. I guess now that you're a full-fledged analyst, I imagine you've probably broken down her tape a little bit. What have you seen out of her last couple of wins?
Yeah, she's an intelligent fighter. So she's got a good fight IQ. She trains really hard. She's intelligent all the way around in life, I think the girl's got like more master's degrees than like most people who are working at NASA right now, So it's like, what are you doing fighting, girl? Like, all right, this is something that you love too. So let's go. So she's smart. So and she's very skilled, she's very strong. She's got good cardio. It's going to be a really amazing fight to be able to go in there and have some fun.
I like the matchup. Do you go into this one with a different mindset, I guess? Like you said, once you get that first win under the belt, I got to imagine that, that adds a little confidence, a little bit like, I'm absolutely supposed to be here.
Yeah. I knew I was supposed to be here before I stepped foot in that ring, honestly. Like when I finally stepped foot in the ring, it was like more of a relieving moment than sometimes that I had fought in the LFA. Because it's like most of the people that I've fought coming up through the ranks are now in the UFC. Like I don't think anybody else has had a more difficult path to the UFC than I have, period. I don't think so, from the girls' perspective. Obviously, guys get put through the ringer as well. But almost all of my opponents are current UFC fighters and having success at that. So I felt like when I finally stepped in the UFC, I was like, thank God I'm home, like finally made it. So that was more of a relief than it was a stressor of like, oh man, am I good enough?
Fair enough. Talk to you mentioned the test you had. How did you and Loopy Godinas become friends after beating the piss out of each other? That was amazing. How did that connection happen that you became friends after that battle?
Well, man, I didn't hate her before we fought, and so then I'm not going to hate her afterwards. And in fact, it's like during the fight, like, so before when we had initially gotten matched up, like Loopy used to follow me and she used to talk to me a lot on IG. And then we got matched up and it was like, all right, like, like she hit the unfollow button, like business was business and it is what it is. And we went out there and had a fucking war, because like we are both just awesome athletes. And afterwards, I'm sitting on the back, I cut her up, she cut me up. Like that's how it went down. She cut me up worse than I cut her up, but I'm in the back and I'm literally getting stitched up in the back of the arena. and I had 20 stitches on my face. And she comes back there and just gives me like the biggest hug. And we just had so many amazing heartfelt moments. Like, and Loopy is such an awesome human being. Like, if you don't like Loopy, like, what, like, who are you? You know, like, she's so sweet. She's the sweetest person ever. It's really difficult to be bitter at someone who's so wonderful.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool to see what you've done. All right. Well, listen, it's, your career resumes on June 25th, but I would say one of your careers. You got a bunch of them going on, but I guess just talk to me. I mean, this fight, you win here. What's the rest of this year hold? What's the goal right now? Because it seems like you got so much going on in your life. Is it multiple fights? Is it rankings? Is it pursuing this outside of the cage stuff? I mean, where do you see yourself going with a win on June 25th?
Yeah. Actually, nothing matters until June 25th. Period. You know, like no broadcasting matters, no writing matters, like nothing in my life matters at all. Like I don't give a shit about anything. The only thing I care about is going in there and getting this victory. And I do want to fight multiple times this year. I do want to make sure that I'm continuing to climb the rankings. You know, I do know that I am the most elite athlete in the division. And that's sports science right there. You know, I've broken almost every single record. There is no reason why I'm not continuing to just like run through people. So I get to showcase that on June 25th. I'm very much so looking forward to going out there and showing you guys exactly how hard I work in the gym. It doesn't matter what things look like on social medias and all the other things that I get to do on the in between of my fight times. Because when it comes to business, I am more than serious about the things that I do.
Well said. I love it. Well, the energy is infectious as always, Vanessa. I appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing you out here in Vegas in June 25th.
Yeah, let's have some fun, okay?